Krishna devotees, Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Today we are very glad and pleased to have the association of His Grace Prasannatma Balaram Prabhu, who will be sharing the nectar from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 6, chapter number 1, Shloka number 12. Prabhuji, over to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Danvats pranams to all the devotees. I hope my audio is okay. You all are able to hear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very good. So we'll get started. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkripātamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So, like already called out, the shloka that we are going to discuss for today is 6, 1 and 12. I'll just share that so that all of you can see. Just give me a minute. And I'd also to thank Sankarshan Priya Prabhu to give me this opportunity to do this small seva. So thank you so much, Prabhu. So just let me know if you all can see the screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
But I'm not able to see. One second.
No, Prabhu, we can see your WhatsApp.
Yeah, there's so many things open there. I think
Yes.
just closing them. Just a second. Okay, why is this not coming now? I can see the toolbar, but I'm not able to.
Prabhuji, I think you need to open a browser, and I don't know whether you are opening from Word document or browser, Prabhuji.
From the browser only directly. So, okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, now I'll again do that. Just a second. Yeah, this one. Why is this happening? I don't know, bro. If somebody can share, that will be good.
Now we can see, Prabhu.
Oh,
Just now. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it went away. I think there was some lag. Yeah, is that okay now?
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see.
Yeah, okay.
There's a small window, I think, but yes, we can see. Yeah, it's okay, Prabhu, now.
I'm not able to get that out. Okay, so thank you for that. Sorry, okay. So 6.1.12. नाश्नतः पत्यम् इवानम् व्याध्यो अभिभवन्ति हि एवं नियमाकृद्राजन् शनैः क्षेमाय कल्पते. So that's the word, and then I just do the synonyms, the word to word. Na, not. Ashnataha, those who eat. Patyam, suitable. Eva, indeed. Annam, food. Vyadhyaha, different types of diseases. Abhibhavanti, overcome. He, indeed. Evam, similarly. Niyamakrit, one following regulative principles. Rajan, O king. Shanai is gradually. Kshemaya, for well-being. Kalpate, becomes fit. So just read out the translation and then the purport. So translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. The translation, Prabhupada's writings, my dear king, If a diseased person eats the pure, uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician, he is gradually cured, and the infection of disease can no longer touch him. Similarly, if one follows the regulative principles of knowledge, he gradually progresses towards liberation from material contamination. Purport. So, one is gradually purified if one cultivates knowledge, even through mental speculation, and strictly follows the regulative principles enjoined in the Shastras and explained in the next verse. Therefore, the platform of jnana, speculative knowledge, is better than the platform of karma, fruitive activities. There is every chance of falling from the platform of karma to hellish conditions. But on the platform of jnana, one is saved from hellish life, although one is still not completely free from infection. The difficulty is that on the platform of jnana, one thinks that he has been liberated and has become Narayana or Bhagavan. This is another phase of ignorance. Ye अन्ये अरविन्दाक्ष विमुक्तमानिनास् त्वय्यष्टभवाद् अविशुद्धबुद्धयः आहृह्य कृच्छ्रेण परं पदं ततः पतन्ति अधो अनादृत युष्माद् angrayah. So it's a shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam again, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 32. So there, Prabhupada is taking this verse and then he's explaining, because of ignorance, one speculatively thinks himself liberated from material contamination, although actually he is not. Therefore, even if one raises to Brahmagyan, understanding of Brahman, one nevertheless falls down because of not taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Nonetheless, jnanis at least know what is sinful and what is pious, and they very cautiously act according to the injunction of the Shastras. So that's the verse that we'll be discussing today. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Andeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanostute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat. So before we get started, seeking the blessings of all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, Prabhus, Matajis, seniors who are here. So kindly bless me so that the right words come at the right time, the right spirit. Doing this as a service to the Guru Parampara, for the pleasure of the Lordships, and for my own purification. Hare Krishna. So this is a wonderful verse, actually, but we need to understand the continuity. So what is the context in which this is being spoken for continuity and also for clarity? So both it will help. So we know, I mean, the sixth canto. So we are aware. I mean, this is actually titled as Prescribed Duties of Mankind. So that's the topic or the canto that we are discussing. And the first chapter, the very first chapter or the first few chapters are about Ajamila. And the first chapter actually is titled as History of the Life of Ajamila. So before the story narration, I mean, like, Ajamila's story we all know. what happened. But now this is the conversation between Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. And they are actually discussing in detail the background or the run up to this particular story. So that's what is being discussed here. So here we can see, in fact, the whole chapter, if you take, which is talking about the history of life of Ajamil, or the canto, the sixth canto itself. See, in fact, the previous cantos, if you see, they are all about creation, about subsequent creation. So what is creation? That is Sarga. There are these 10 topics which are there, no? So 10 subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam, starting from Sarga, Visarga, then Sthanam, Poshanam, like that. So now, we've already, the initial cantos is, the subject matter of creation and subsequent creation was discussed. Then Sthanam, or the planetary positions. And in the planetary positions, the last aspect that we saw was the description of the hellish planets and then what happens in hell and so on and so forth. So there are many such subsequent discussions that are being happening between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Then in the sixth canto, actually the aspect of Poshanam is being discussed. So we just keep that in mind. Poshanam means protection of the Lord. So how the Lord is protecting everyone, not just his devotees, but everybody. What is the type of protection that he gives? So that is how then these examples are there of Ajamil. And then also then you see about Vritrashvasura, about Chitraketu and all in the subsequent chapters in this particular canto. So here the description is, or the discussion is with respect to Karma Kanda. So Karma Kanda are fruitive activities, we are aware of that. So in this context, the conversation is happening where Sukadev Goswami is actually talking about pain. And he says that why people are experiencing pain is because of their past sins. So he's bringing out the aspect of sin. And now nobody wants to sin, that is for sure. I mean, it's not like, okay, there could be a small percentage who have this propensity for sinning, but even that person also doesn't want to sin. Like the analogy would be, if you take a class of students, nobody would want to fail, even though some people have failed or they failed because they didn't study, but then the intention is not to fail, they want to pass. But then they were not able to pass because of various reasons. So, like that, nobody wants to sin, but then sin keeps happening. So, when that discussion was happening, then the topic of atonement comes in. So, we all know what is atonement. Atonement means prayaschit, or we committed a sin. Then, if you look at the Shastras, there are certain activities or actions that one can perform to counter that particular sin. So, this is atonement or prayaschit. And this prayaschit or atonement, they are concluding. Sukadeva Goswami is concluding, saying that it is inadequate for purification of the self. This is not very hard for us to understand. I'm just giving the background. So why it is not hard? Because purification, even though we do prayaschit or we do atonement, there is also always this tendency to recommit that particular sin because of various other reasons. What is the primary reason? Sin keeps happening because of fruitive work, or the mentality of fruitive work that we have. So we want some gain. Dandehi, danamdehi, I want to enjoy. So it's all because of fruitive work is to do with sense gratification. So I have my senses, I am this body, I have the senses, and I want to enjoy. And sometimes somebody is coming in the path of enjoyment, and so some sin happens. And that sin, I'll have to face the consequence. And then I know it is bad. I don't want to do that. I just want my enjoyment, but still in the process of having this enjoyment, I end up disturbing some living entities, which is causing me sins, and that sin I have to suffer, but I don't want suffering. So I do prayaschit. And where do I look for in the prayaschit or the atonement? I look at the Shastras, and then I do prayaschit. But now the question is going deeper. Now he says, even though we do prayaschit, Parikshit Maharaj is asking, why is it that again and again we recommit the same sin? Why does that happen? So this is a deeper question that he is asking. And for which then Sukadeva Goswami rightly is explaining how only attainment is not enough. So if we are just trying to do atonement, or then that's not enough, because actions or acts that are meant to neutralize a particular impious action, that is, neutralize a sin, they are also fruitive in nature. So because they are fruitive in nature, because I want to remove the sin that is there, so that my enjoyment will continue and I don't have to suffer. So this is also fruitive in nature. The very thought behind doing atonement is to remove the sins, which means that I don't have to suffer, which is fruitive in nature. So I hope that's not very difficult to understand. So because it is fruitive in nature, it does not release one from the tendency to act fruitively. So we will continue in that cycle of sin, atonement, because we always are approaching it from with a fruitive mentality. Fruitive mentality means material enjoyment, sense gratification. So I hope that's clear. So then here again, they are discussing and they are saying superficially it might look good, but internally there is no purification that is happening. And so the tendency to go back to sinful activity remains. Even though the process is good, but the tendency to go back is there. So we can understand this, and that is how then in this particular verse, the reference is to a diseased person. So a diseased person is on the road of recovery when he is taking the uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician or the doctor, and he is gradually going to get cured, or he is in the process of cure. So he is making advancement there. But that does not mean that the infection has gone completely. Doctors will definitely be able to relate to this. And even though it might look, the symptoms of the disease are gone, but the disease might still be inside, and a relapse can happen if that patyam, or that action of neutralizing the disease is not done 100%, internally also it is not taken out, then it can reappear or it can relapse. So this is the situation that is being discussed here. So now, on this context, Prabhupada in his purport very wonderfully is talking about the regulative principles of knowledge that one should have. So what is this differentiator? Now, it looks like a vicious circle. So I want enjoyment, then for that enjoyment, I'm doing sin. And because of sin, I have to suffer pain, but I don't want pain because I started off with enjoyment in my mind. So I want enjoyment. So then I have to atone. Then if I have to atone, then I do atonement, but then again I'm sinning. So it looks like it's a cycle that we are going through. So there, what is the differentiator is that this aspect of repentance, paschatap, that is the aspect that one has to understand. Now, where is this paschatap coming from? This paschatap is because of knowledge. So when there is no knowledge, then there is no repentance. So you might do atonement. See, there are two different things. If there is atonement done just as a matter of fact activity, then there is no repentance. Then we will still end up making further mistakes, and then we'll again depend on further atonement to go on. That's not going to happen. But once there is repentance, once there is proper knowledge, when there is enlightenment because of knowledge, then there is some hope for us. So when you realize that, like it's like the same diseased person, if he or she thinks that, okay, now I see, it looks like I've become all right, and then even though the disease or the virus is still inside, but then he concludes that I'm all right, and then he gives up certain regulations, and then he begins to indulge, then there is a relapse that will happen. That's not hard to understand. So in this way, but if that same diseased person has the knowledge that no, the viruses are still in me, I'm not fully cured, even though I might look like I'm healthy and I'm able to, and I feel stronger, but then this thing is not completely rooted out from the root. It's not taken out from the root, so it can relapse. So then he or she is more careful for a longer duration. So this is actually repentance or atonement happening, but with proper knowledge. Where you can't, where in the example of the diseased person, he continues with the advice of the doctor for a longer duration and refrains from certain things and so on and so forth. So, like that, here also, one needs to be aware of this pitfall. So, now we need to have knowledge or jnana. So, that's where it is coming from. And there, Prabhupada is saying that once we cultivate knowledge, even though it is through mental speculation, and strictly follow the regulative principles enjoyed in the Shastras, then there is hope for us to not visit the hellish planets. So it is not still complete liberation. It is like this. Actually, Parikshit Maharaj asks a question. He says, after hearing about all that description of the hell, he is a little disturbed. He says, oh my God, hell is so bad. Now, what will keep us out of hell, you please tell? So for that, then the answer is up to this point, where it says that knowledge or the right knowledge will keep us out of hell. So that is what Sukadeva Goswami is saying. Now you might wonder, I mean, I'm just putting so many things across. But before we move further into this, when I'm talking about Prayaschit, good example was Parikshit Maharaj. Of course, there are many examples, but wonderful example is Parikshit Maharaj himself. Parikshit Maharaj, recall that incident where he, the dead snake incident where he is garlanded Shamika Rishi, and then he is walking away. When he is walking away, actually there is so much of repentance. And then he realizes what I have done is wrong. He's such a great sage, and then I ended up doing this. I shouldn't have done it. And then, you know, that there is that chapters where, I mean, in the shlokas where the description of what is going on through his mind is there. And then he hears about the curse. And because of that repentance, and then he truly feels what he has done is wrong because of the knowledge that he had with him, which talks about the position of a sage, and then how he was in deep meditation, and I ended up disturbing, and then I got angry because of my thirst, and and I thought I was the king and I should be respected, and nobody is giving me respect. I was acting in a bodily platform. So all this kind of knowledge, which is necessary for everybody. So when he is having that, and then he is actually repenting, and then he finally concludes that it is good that I've got this curse. I will not counter it, because let me go through the suffering because I have made a mistake. So and then he does prayashchit. And what was the prayashchit that he did? He wanted to fast unto death without eating, and then he wanted to hear about the Supreme Lord, or he wanted to hear the best thing, and then that's how then the Bhagavatam came about. And he also did the yajna of Shravanam. So there are this in the Shastras, it says, in whatever state we are in of advancement, be it even a karmi or a jnani, or whatever state, in whatever this thing we are there, we should not give up three things. What are the three things we should never give up? We shouldn't give up doing yajnas, we shouldn't give up doing dhana, and then tapas. So tapas, dhana, yajna, dhana, and tapas are the three things that should never be given up. So we can see how Parikshit Maharaj did not give up all these three even when he was on the verge of death, or he has been foretold that he is actually a recipient of a curse. But still, he did not give up. And the Shastras say we should not do this. So, yajna, what is that yajna he was doing? Sankirtan. Like Shravanam, he was hearing the Bhagavatam. And then, of course, he's a king, and then he would have, dhana is part of the king. So, any visitors come. So, that was done appropriately based on the situation. And then, tapas. So, he took austerities, he fasted, and then he said, I will hear this thing. So, along with tapas, he did the yajna. And then that is how then he was able to very easily overcome this. Anyway, that was a side discussion. But when we come to the platform of jnana, it is mentioned that jnana is superior to karma platform. So karma kanda platform is action and reaction. I do this, I get this. It's a transaction based. So I do good, I get good benefit. I do bad, I get bad benefit. So that is karma kanda. So I'll only take the things which are good, I will do good, so that I acquire a lot of pious credits or good credits, so that I will be able to enjoy later. This is the overall setup of karma kanda. Now, and this is how we are all conditioned. We in our bodies are conditioned for this kind of a outlook. And then with this kind of conditioning, we have this propensity to reduce any activity, even in bhakti activity, to karma kanda level. Correct, na? So now with this propensity, we come to bhakti, we attend bhakti vrikshas, we attend to lectures, we come to ISKCON, whatever, all that process. And then we say, okay, we have to chant, then we have to do certain things. Okay, we will do all of that. But then, because of our propensity is karma kanda, we will reduce it to karma kanda level. When we reduce a bhakti activity to karma kanda level, then the benefit is not what you will get in the as bhakti, but it will be. So that is why then, to protect against that, we say those 10 offenses to the holy name and all that. So because chanting the holy name is a bhakti activity. So what is that? Anybody recall what is that particular offense among the 10 offenses which talks about reducing it to a karma kanda level? It is number 7, where it says to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activity offered in the Vedas known as fruitive activities or karma kanda. So it is an offense to consider the chanting like this. So if we consider in our mind only, then that means we have reduced it to karma kanda level. So what does that mean? If I chant, then I will the sin will go away, or I can be happy, or I will get this, or my mood will be right. Many ways we can slowly start bringing it down to the karma kanda level. Karma kanda level means fruitive mentality, which means what's in it for me mentality. So we shouldn't have that when we are chanting. So this particular thing of ensuring, whatever I just spoke now is part of the jnana platform of understanding the reality. So that is why jnana means the correct knowledge. So what will prevent us from entering hell is this jnana. That is what Sukadeva Goswami is saying. So in karma kanda level, one can fall down to hellish planets. We know that hell is created because of karma kanda only. You want to enjoy, when you end up creating something bad for another person, and that what bad you have created, you will have to suffer for that in hell. So sure way of entering hell is following karma kanda activity. Even though it is you are following it in that based on the shastra, still there will be sins that will happen, and because of which the hellish planets are there. But with the proper knowledge, then you will be at least cognizant of the fact that I will end up suffering in hell, and so many types of hellish planets are there, so I don't want to go there. And that is the question that he asked. How is it, what should I do to not visit hell, or what should one do? So, for that, in this particular verse, it is talking about jnana or knowledge. But however, when Prabhupada is explaining that even though there is a merit in jnana, which will keep us away from hell, but there is also a demerit to this. What is that demerit? The demerit is that there is a pitfall. So they are warning us of this pitfall. That pitfall is that if we conclude immediately that I am now become liberated, I have become Narayana, or I have become Bhagavan, then it is not a good thing. Now that's the pitfall that is there. So it is like that diseased person immediately concluding that I have become all right now, and then jumping around and doing things. So then it's you can just kind of take that analogy. So concluding fast is the pitfall. And then and Prabhupada says that is another phase of tamoguna. So even though we are in jnana, but we quickly turn off the light. So we get into tamoguna with half knowledge. So that is not correct. And for that, Prabhupada actually takes a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he explains that. And that is what we read there. Ye anye aravindhaksha vimukta manina. So this is a very wonderful verse. Actually, this verse Prabhupada has quoted many times in his lectures, and then we see it in the purport here. So he has used this, and then I've heard him talk about this verse many times. So where he says, he takes certain words, he says, Vimukta manina. So what is this Vimukta manina? Vimukta manina means falsely considering themselves free from the bondage of material contamination. So that means like that diseased person thinking that he has become all right, but the contamination is still there. And then speculating in various ways, but not knowing or desiring any further information or any further jnana about the lotus feet of the Lord. So that is called as avishuddha buddhi. Those whose intelligence is still not purified, who do not know the actual goal of life, but then they think it is only sense gratification. And so then to counter that, and then it's a very limited level, at a very low level, this So it is called as Avishuddha Buddhi. So when that kind of a conclusion happens, then what happens is there is fall down, patanti. So they will go down into material existence. So they might not visit hell, but they are not making progress also. They are not moving upwards. They would continue or they will remain in the material position only. So there is uh, no progress happening. There is no way you are reaching your where you need to go, so that is not happening. So that is why then this pitfall is being explained in this particular verse, and Prabhupada is bringing out this aspect very nicely. So now, but however, for a jnani, one good thing is that he he or she understands what is sin and what is pious. And so they are very, very cautious and they act according to the injunctions of the Shastra. So in fear, they follow the various things. Oh, if I do this, then this will become like that. So that is how a jnani is. So even though a jnani is above a karma kandi, of course, a karmi or a karma kandi, but then they are not at the topmost. So the topmost is when you kind of combine both activity, that is karma, and jnana together and make it karma yoga. So then your effort will bear complete fruit, or you will be able to reach the ultimate destination, which is back to Godhead. So that, or being with the Lord in whatever way we are supposed to be with Him. So this aspect we need to understand. And that is what is even in the Bhagavad Gita also, that's how the chapters are also arranged. So we talk about karma in the third chapter, which is all about cause and effect. And then there is transcendental knowledge in the fourth chapter, which is talking about jnana, about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then again, karma is revisited, but this time under the heading as karma yoga. So karma comes twice, one is in the third and then in the fifth chapter also, where he says when you do activities in proper consciousness, understanding fully that it doesn't belong to me, I am not the owner, I am just a caretaker, and the whole lot of understanding that follows after identifying ourselves as not owners but as servants, as not as enjoyers but as servants, not as what do you call not as lords, but as servants, then the whole paradigm shifts. And then any action that we know, then we know that we need to please the Lord. So this is proper, complete, full knowledge. And this knowledge we will only get when we take the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Otherwise, this knowledge will not come in. So this is the point that is being discussed here in this particular verse. And then Prabhupada actually goes on to say, following regulator principles and what is enjoined in the Shastras, as explained in the next verse, will get us out of this pitfall. That is what Prabhupada is saying. And then, of course, we can then relate it to the story of Ajamila and then see how he did not get liberation. I mean, he got liberation in the sense that he did not have to visit hell. The Yamadutas came because he did that one small bhakti activity, which is taking the Lord's name, even though it was taken in an impure way, still he got the benefit because of this aspect. What is that aspect? That aspect of not, I mean, he even though he didn't have the knowledge, but it was without any offense. He didn't reduce it to a karma kanda activity, but then he just called out the name in a very neutral way. And because of that, then that all this benefit came. So that just to highlight the potency of the name and then how the Lord is so merciful that his poshanam is still there. So it will add up there as we move on. But when we are still dwelling on this topic about jnana, about doing activities in jnana, but still not achieving the ultimate success, we can actually understand this with a small analogy, which I'll try to refer to here. It's like the student. imagine a classroom, or you just think of the time when we were all students. So a student knows the consequence of not studying well. Yes or no? Correct, right? Everybody knows. If I don't study well, then I don't get good marks, then I will fail and I'll have to remain, and then that is very shameful, etc., etc. So they know the consequence of not studying. So now, because of this reason, many of us have studied. So because, if I don't study, then I will fail. This is what we have been taught. So this is also like that, failing means like visiting hellish planets. So you don't, at least you know that knowledge that I know there's certain sins I shouldn't do. I follow the Shastric principles, certain things I do, then I will not have to visit hell. That's all. So this is the first stage, uh, moving towards complete realization. Then when a student is doing in that frame of mind, he or she might still do well in the exam and get top marks, and he might even qualify for the next grade in with flying colors, we can say, so with topping the class and all of that. But still, it's not that that person is having love for that subject or anything. He or she is just doing it so that they pass. That's all, because they don't want to fail. So like that, don't want hellish planets, but then they just want to not visit a hell. So because of that, following rules and regulations. So that is what is being discussed here. So they like that student, that sincere student. No, they become very sincere. They'll follow the rules of the classroom. Whatever the teacher says, they will follow. They'll do their homeworks properly. They'll try to study, follow the syllabus. All of that they will do. So it looks like a good student, a student who likes to study, but they may not like to study. So that's the pitfall. So now after this, then as they proceed further and further, then slowly they will develop this love for the subject. And then later on, they will not read that with the intention of so that I don't fail, or with the intention that I do well in the exam, but it will be with the intention of learning more on that subject, because they develop this love for the subject. And that's how this various stages of bhakti is also there, where then you move on to that stage where you actually do any action or activity for the love of God. But then up till now, it's not so much. It is mishra, it is mixed. We want this, we want that. So even a student life also, you can imagine that. So initially it was only fear, then slowly some interest is coming in a certain subject. So he tries to read that. Even if he is not told to read, he will still read, he or she. Even if there is no homework that day, he'll still pull out that particular chapter, subject which he likes and read. So slowly, Ruchi, Nishta, all that is coming for him. And just an analogy. And then move on to the stage of complete love of God. So that's how this jnana is to be understood. This jnana is about what happens if I don't do this. And that is the jnana that Prabhupada is explaining here. And then, but then it still gives us benefit. What is that benefit? We don't have to visit hell. And then it prepares a platform for that person to move further. So it's an intermediate stage that we are talking about. So that's how this particular verse is there. In fact, this is the verse which is transitioning from karma kanda to the next level, not just jnana, to bhakti. And in between is this one particular shloka where Prabhupada is taking, where it is talking about knowledge. And that knowledge is this knowledge of knowing what is the pitfall, or not in the pitfall, knowing what is the cause and effect of my actions, and then realizing that, and then becoming cognizant, becoming a little scared about it, and then trying to be a little sincere and studious. Like in the school, a person becomes very studious and then does everything properly. In the same way, we regulate our life, and then we try to do everything at the right time, in the right way, and so on and so forth. And that is the regulative principle that Prabhupada is referring to, where you lead a very regulated life. You don't lead a life which is without any regulation, even though one is doing sense enjoyment, but still you regulate it. In the same example, even the child, the student, he might have a regulated relaxation or recreation. He might watch TV or whatever, WhatsApp, social media for half an hour, but then the other 3 hours I will study, restrictions, bring those things on into that person so that he will be able to slowly ensure that he's gaining knowledge. And as he's gaining knowledge, as he continues to do regulative principles or following the rules and regulation, it'll get converted into love of the subject. So in the same way, for us also, when we follow the regulative principles, then we stand a good chance to further advance and ensure that we are free of this material contamination completely. Again, that example of the patient, where the disease is completely gone from inside, internally, so that then it does not revisit again. There is no relapse that happens. So when our bhakti becomes Shuddha, then the relapse is not there. So otherwise, there is a chance for relapse. So even in that platform, the various stages of bhakti, from Shraddha to Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivriti. After Anartha Nivriti, there is Nishtha, then Ruchi, then Asakti, Bhava, Prema. All these stages are various stages of how you begin to develop an interest, and and then slowly that becomes love, and then there is this emotions that get displayed, and then it moves to pure love regarded. So a person who's in that pure stage, prema bhakti, then they will not fall down. Up to the stage of bhava, there is fall down. We know this example of Bharat Maharaj. So he was almost on the stage of bhava, but then he still fell down because it had not completely fructified, or it had not completely turned into bhakti. So that's how then he had to become Jada Bharat and then move on. So with these examples from our Srimad Bhagavatam, we can understand how until that complete purification is not happened, there is always this chance to fall down. And that is what is being highlighted here also. And here, just jnana is the starting point. It is not even later on, anurtana, nothing of that sort. It is just jnana. So that is not going to help us. But then we need jnana to keep us, that will keep us out of hell, means it will keep us or prevent us from falling down. Patanti, we don't fall down. But then to move further up, we need to actually purify our material existence itself, or the material contamination that is there, and then completely spiritualize our activities. Completely spiritualizing the activity means doing it for Krishna, or doing it without any personal motive. It is to please the Lord and nothing more. So when we, at least theoretically, we realize that we need to be in that stage, that means that we have begun our journey to reach that stage. And then we wait for the mercy of the Lord and the mercy of the Parampara, so that because of their mercy, then we would at one point get there, and then we will be able to continue doing our devotional service, or the Bhakti Yoga, so that it pleases the Lord even more. So that's how, that's what is going to come out, and that's what Sukadeva Goswami is also mentioning here. But as far as this particular verse is concerned, it is just talking about jnana, which I just discussed, and we also discussed about the pitfall of that such a jnana, and also what is the benefit of that jnana. So benefit of that jnana is that we don't fall down, and pitfall is to conclude hastily or quickly, and then think that I have become liberated, which is also not correct. So that is what is being highlighted in this verse. So I just discussed that. I want to just limit it to this, because what to do, what are those regulative principles, all that is given in the subsequent verses. So I think we can hear that tomorrow. So on this note, it is 8 o'clock. I will stop here. But definitely we're opening up for any comments or any thoughts or anything that anybody wants to add. It will be nice to hear from people. We have some 10 minutes, so it will be nice if we can hear that. Go ahead. So I'll stop here. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu. Very nice class. Prabhu, can you repeat the advantage and the pitfall of the knowledge?
So the advantage is we will not visit hellish planets. Very clear in this purport. So you will not fall down. And that same analogy of the student, he doesn't want to fail. So because he understands what happens by a failure, all of that shame, this, that, and all. So that much of knowledge is there. But that knowledge of love of the subject, all that is still not there. He's not thinking about all that. So this is limited to that extent. So that is the advantage. The pitfall is concluding very quickly that, oh, I am the best in this subject because I got 90 out of 100 or whatever, 99 out of 100. But then you still don't have the love. So you're still not there. You cannot do any research. You cannot do further on that subject. But then thinking that, oh, now I'm an expert. So that is foolishness. That is like this people who conclude quickly that I have become liberated, I have become Narayana. We are nowhere near Narayana, but then we think we are Narayana. So that's how you can draw that analogy. I hope that explains.
Yes, Prabhu, one more question. Maybe I'm wrong, my thinking is wrong, but every time when I hear, I worry. They say Ajamila has not done any aparadha. That is why he was liberated. Don't you think when he went for the prostitute, he leaving the family, has he not done aparadha, Prabhu?
Mataji, that is all sins he committed. What they say is he didn't do any aparat to the name. He named him Narayana, and then he called out Narayana in the mood of without any aparat. And that is the benefit that he got. It is aparad, of course, materially he has done sinful activities. So that is his thing. Like he came up with that baggage he has come with. So many sins he has accumulated. That is why that Yamadutas were laughing and saying, you must be funny or you must be crazy. They were telling the Vishnu Dutas in the beginning to think that he is, without any this thing, no, he is, because he's such a sinful person. Why are you stopping us? He is the right candidate for hell. I take him. How can you even come and stop us, kind of a thing? Then the turnaround happens. And then they explain that because he just called out the name Narayana without any aparat, which means when he aparat to the holy name.
Okay.
He didn't name him Narayana thinking that, okay, Narayana will save me. Or at that point, he didn't call out. He just called out in a very offenseless way. You look at all the 10, then none of that was fitting in the way he called out to Narayana. So in that way, they gave that benefit. And that is how the Lord is actually looking for some good point, even among all the bad points that are there, and giving marks. It's like the teacher, no? The whole answer is wrong, but then the teacher will still go through each line to see if there is some point which is relevant, and then tick that and then say, okay, you get 1 mark or half mark. So that's the mercy. When a teacher can be so merciful, the Lord, of course, is much more merciful than that.
The sin and aparadha, they are not synonyms. They are different from each other.
Yes. In the context that we are using, because aparad is like Vaishnava aparad, aparad to the holy name, all that. But this is sin, which is more because of enjoyment, and then you face that consequence because you put somebody else in an inconvenience. That becomes sin. Like you killed somebody, or you put somebody in distress because you wanted to enjoy. So like that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Or you cheated somebody because you wanted that money. So how you put others in distress, or you put somebody else in you put them down, is by all this, by either cheating or by creating, making their life miserable, or ultimately killing them, or any of those things.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you for the nice class. Prabhu, so to conclude, we should be here after the knowledge. We should be in the knowledge, and gnana, tapa, and dhyana should not be left. But this is okay for devotees, Prabhu. But generally, we will be with material world people also. They will not be accepting, or will they accept, or even if they accept, will they follow? Because repenting is one thing, and to have knowledge is also important. But for material world people, how should we tell about this Paschatapa, Prabhu? How can we tell, Prabhu?
So if you look at this verse, it talks about sin, or not this verse, the chapter where Sukadeva Goswami says, nobody wants to suffer, but you get suffering. That I don't think even a karmi will agree to that. You agree that you don't want suffering, but there is still suffering. Why there is suffering? Then why? Because of sins only. Why there are sins? Because you did certain things which you're not supposed to do in a proper way. So what is the way out for that? Then follow the rules and regulations, then there is no sin. It is like this, no, why am I in jail? Because you're in jail because you did a mistake. Why you made a mistake? Because you didn't follow certain rules. If you had followed the rules and regulations in your outside life, then you wouldn't have come to jail. So like that fear of visiting a jail is there so that people don't, or fear of paying a fine is there. See, most of the time we are of that mentality. Our outside people only I'm talking about, and we also. On our own, we will not follow traffic rule. But if there is a board which says there is a camera is there, then you will be caught, then they will stop. But if that is not there, then they will say, it's okay, nobody's watching, I will go. So this is our propensity, our pravriti is like that. So all these things, rules and regulations are needed. And recognizing that rule and regulation and the consequence of that is the jnana, is the knowledge for being a good citizen. So that you don't have to visit a prison, or you don't have to have a interaction with the cop and all of that. So because then to be clear of that, so that means that you are having a good life, because you are not put into, I mean, you're not putting yourself into that kind of a situation by following the rules and regulations. That is what is here also. You don't want to visit hellish planets, you just follow the rules and regulations and lead a regulated life. Prabhupada in the lecture to the same, he says, regulated life means, it is like following the rules and regulations means Aryan, means intelligent person, because that is what differentiates man from animal. He talks in that way. He talks about how otherwise we are just animalistic. So regulation is very important. So we say marriage is a regulation for a certain craving or anything. And it also has a responsibility. You wanted to have some kind of a pleasure, and then now you have to take responsibility of the consequence of that pleasure or whatever. So, you know, we can extend this in many ways to understand this in its entirety. And then we will realize how regulation becomes very important. And when you do regulated life, then you are preparing the platform for you to move upward and then go beyond. If regulation is not there, then there is no hope at all. Na? So it is like you're deep in trouble, in water, troubled water. So where is the question of becoming dry? First you have to get out of the water. Then only you can become dry. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees. Any other question from anyone else? Saraswati Mataji has mentioned Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji, wonderful analogies and class. Thank you. Dayamai Prabhu has mentioned Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we can.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. We're just trying to repeat what we hear from Prabhupada.
Yes, Venugopal Prabhu, please go ahead. I think. Venugopal Prabhu, your mic is unmuted. You can go ahead.
Okay. So I think we can conclude for today then.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Prabhu. And offering Vaishnava pranams to all the devotees here. Vancha kalpatrubhyascha kripa sindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Gaur Sitanath Paramanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.